Hey, what's up guys? My name is Moda and welcome back to the Mining Stacker YouTube channel. Today's video, going to be talking about kind of the dangers of chasing profits, right? We're going to talk mostly about ASIC. Specifically, we're going to give the example with the K7. Getting a ton of questions about that. So we're kind of going to just talk about the dynamics of like the hash rate and difficulty, how it's going to affect your yield, right? So if you're under the assumption that in about a month from now, you're probably still going to be making like 20-25 bucks a day, not very realistic, right? So we'll talk about it. We'll talk as to why and why. We'll talk about just different strategies, right? So if that sounds good, guys, stay tuned. Let's get to this thing. So this video is going to be very reminiscent of a lot of the early videos I did, even specifically about this unit, right? If you guys remember, that was a big part of the growth part of the channel, was because a lot of people just weren't talking about it, right? And it was, you can even see the title here, New Antminer K7 will not be as profitable as you think. Kind of like a whole series of those because people were failing to mention that portion when they were like shilling this thing, right? I'm starting to see again a lot of tweets, a lot of like advertising for this thing that, oh, get your K7 now, it's gonna make 25 bucks a day, yada yada yada, when in reality by the time you get this thing, it's gonna be a different story, right? So it's not guaranteed, but we're gonna look as to most likely why we have an excellent comparison so we can kind of like see realistic numbers so you can know what to really expect, right? So let's talk about why everybody's interested in this thing all of a sudden. Freaking price action has been stupid. Okay, like there's literally no other way to describe it. It's been stupid. We're literally at let's go to the end of the month. So January 29th, so right at the end of January, 0.0032, right? And we had been hovering in this range for quite a while. Then, out of nowhere, we're currently at quite a bit more than a 3x in just a matter of 2 weeks. Pretty insane numbers, right? This thing has ran up like crazy. We did that video on the K7 not too long ago, and it's specifically regarding their BTC Layer 2 initiative, right? A lot of it is that. I wouldn't be surprised if certain manufacturers jumped on that bandwagon just to increase the price to do what? To sell more miners, right? So little tinfoil hatty there, but this is why everybody's looking at it, because of the price action here. What ended up happening with the K7? Profitability went up pretty significantly, right? So as we look now, the 58 terahash units currently over 20 bucks a day in revenue, about $14 a day profit, right? This is actually kind of on the lower end because they're basing it off of getting about 1900 CKB a day, when realistically, like mine, for example, I do have this exact model, is yielding about 2300 a day. So you could add a couple bucks to that, right? So the other thing that happened because of this, prices went up in a matter of hours, right? Shout out to Seth. I was chatting with him this morning because he said he picked up another one. He price matched Nhash. They were at 1649 plus 200 shipping. So 1849 shipped literally a few hours ago, right? In hours, it went up 50 freaking percent. More than 50% actually, right? 26.49, but then at 200 for shipping, 28.49. This is around the range that most of the vendors are now currently. So if you guys did get in yesterday, the day before, and locked in under 2,000, congrats, right? Because then at this point, you can resell it if you like, right? You got a deal. Other vendors, that's what I see. Freaking terahashes, they had it at 3850. I don't know what the heck's going on there, but they do price match supposedly, so something to keep in mind there. But the main point of this video, though, profitability is not going to remain at this level, right? We have an excellent comparison to kind of give us a better idea of what may potentially happen. It's not 100%, right? We can continue to go up. This thing can go up to 20 cents, right? Who knows at the end of the day? But when I'm doing calculations, when I'm looking at different projections, specifically for ASIC miners, I kind of want to look at more realistic, not necessarily worst case scenario, but just more realistic numbers, right? Of what is possible to happen, what is more likely to happen, right? So the best comparison is we had pretty much an identical situation just 2 months ago, right? And that's with Kadena, right? A lot of similarities between these two, not in the projects, but in the hardware itself and what's happening, okay? So just as recently as October, we were in the low 40 cents, okay? Right around Christmas time, we pumped up to about $1.40. So what ended up happening? Same exact thing. Literally overnight, prices went from like 2,700 to 3,500 plus, right? And people were ordering like crazy. Why? Because when they went on mine the ASIC or ASIC miner value, what to mine, this thing was making in the high teens, low 20s profitability per day at that time, right? So people saw it. They have the same mindset. Man, I'm gonna get this thing, it's gonna make 20 bucks a day. Then reality kind of set in, right? So a couple factors happened. The price did retrace a bit, right? It's currently at about $1.10 a day. The biggest factor though, right, is the increase in the hash rate and the difficulty. Okay, so we went from being at about a 450 petahash for this long stretch of time, which by the way, if you're interested in these miners, this was the time to be on them. Okay, that's gonna be the learning lesson, is to get in early. That's gonna be a big theme. That's been a big theme of this channel and this whole thing, is getting in early, being in before the hype, before everybody's talking about on YouTube. Those are the ones who make out the best, right? We've seen like example after example after example, not just recently, not just with these ASICs, but the GPU coins, literally all since the beginning of this channel, right? But regardless, currently, again, we're about 450 right prior to that pump. Ultimately now closer to 700, right about 680, and it's going to continue to go up, right? People who ordered at that time or people who ordered a little bit after are still getting theirs because of Chinese New Year, so expect mid-March. Wouldn't be surprised to see this thing well over 700, closer in the 750 range. May level off from there because now it's not looking as appealing, right? People are looking at the profitability and they're like, I don't know if I want to pay 4K for that. And I personally wouldn't either, right? Because again, the time to get these things was before all of this, okay? So the reason I'm saying it's very similar, we had a again, they released about the same time, an extremely similar increase in hash rate. Again, you can see with KDA, what happened, it was right end of January, beginning of February. Same thing with Nervos. Theirs was a little bit sooner. It was early January, right? So it was about a month ahead of time, but the exact same thing. We went from 60 petahash all the way to about 200, right? Whereas Cadena went from about 200 to about 520. So about 2.5x compared to Nervos 3x. So kind of similar in those regards, right? So will we likely see a similar situation here? Most likely, right? So with KDA, for example, prior to that pump, I was yielding about 21 KDA a day. After this pump, now after this increase, went down to about 14 KDA a day, right? So a pretty significant hit in the amount of rewards, in the amount of KDA you're getting a day. So profitability wise, that's the reason the number dropped. But again, even if KDA does go back up to $1.20, $1.30 to $1.40, it's still not going to be in the 20s like it was before. Why? Because of the difficulty, right? Because of that going up, your yield is going to go down and it's going to stay down. Okay, because now these are all people who are committed. They bought KA3s and they're going to stay there. Is it possible that it retraces a bit? Sure. Like the unprofitable hardware that decided to plug in after that pump. So think like the little light miners, the little box miners. Sure, I'm sure some of them will. A little bit different with CKB though, because you can see here that the hash rate has only gone up, right? With CKB, there was a good amount of hardware prior to the K7, right? So this is where things are a little bit different, that even if the price does continue up, which is what we do want to see, right? If it goes up to like 1.5 cents, 2 cents, guess what's also going to happen? On top of people who bought the K7, there's a lot more hardware that's sitting on the sidelines waiting for this thing to be break even or better. Right? Or even better, a lot of the box miners, a lot of the light miners, they're going to be plugging back in because at this point it's close enough for them, right? So I'm expecting a very, very similar increase in the hash rate here, right? Will it be as harsh? Maybe, maybe not. But if we do just a quick comparison so we can kind of see what to expect, again, it's currently yielding about 2400. We'll do easy math. We'll subtract a third just like we did with there. Right? If that were to happen, that would bring our yield down to about 1600. Okay. The other thing that is probably going to happen, not for sure going to happen, but again, I like to do my projections a little bit more on the worst case scenario. Let's say we retrace down to 0.006, which is a very big possibility, and it's possible that it goes even lower. Again, 2 weeks ago, we were down to 0.003. Okay, so it would not be shocking, it would not be surprising for us to go down to this point or potentially lower after profit taking, or if something happens in the market, right? Because currently we can continue to go up, but again, I would project more of a worst case scenario. So if that were to happen, right, we go down to 1600 CKB a day, it goes down to 0.006, which isn't out of the realm of possibility. Matter of fact, I would say it's fairly likely to happen at least sometime soon. It would bring us to $9.60 total revenue. This is not even profit. This is total revenue, okay? So at this point, you still have to subtract your electric. So at a 10-cent kilowatt hour, you're going to be burning about $6.75. So it would bring us to about, just easy math, $3 a day profit, okay? Which is a pretty drastic difference from where we are currently, right? Which is, again, is quite a bit higher than this. So it's just, you need to understand what to expect. Does this mean, oh man, I know it's a horrible buy, I bought in, now I'm going to be... No, because again, for me, for my strategy, the way mine works, break even or better is the goal. And the only reason I even care about that is because it may make more sense to just unplug and buy the coin outright if it's at a significant loss. Like I was more than ready to do that with the K7 if it became unprofitable after the halving. Okay, luckily it didn't. Luckily price action stayed and the difficulty helped out and adjusted to keep it break even or better. But again, just not too long ago, a few weeks ago, we were barely break even. Okay, so don't be surprised to see it happen again. We'll see what ends up happening, but just again, not trying to dissuade you from buying it, just have realistic expectations. But if you're in the same mindset where you're just hodling, then it's not going to affect you. Again, whether it's making 99 cents, 5 cents, or it's making 15 bucks, for me, it's the same thing. I'm just hodling anyway. I'm excited about the price action, yes. Realistically, I will be taking some profits here, just not much, right? The goal was to actually not profit take at all, but at this point, probably going to take 10% off the table just to invest in something else, right? But regardless, just have those expectations. So again, it doesn't necessarily mean, oh no, though, you're going to get wrecked, don't buy this thing. That's not the case either, right? Because at the end of the day, right now is the time to be accruing anything you can, right? Hardware-wise, coin-wise, accrue. But if you were bullish on CKB, you probably should have been in it in the initial batch or after that initial price drop prior to the halving, right? That's the most opportune time. The key lesson here is to be early, right? Stay ahead of the game, stay ahead of the curve. You want to get in prior to these mega pumps. You want to get in prior to everybody talking about it and whatever it is. And sometimes it may still make sense to do it even afterwards, right? Like I'm saying this right now, and I'll even give the example with like in the GPU mining world with like a lithium. A lot of people have been talking about it recently, but realistically, just like we had been talking about it all of last year, the time to get in was during these times, right? But you may have been accruing something else. You may have been getting something else, and maybe you didn't. Like that's kind of the case with me, right? Realistically, based on the strategy, right now, yields are going to be a fraction of what they were, again, just a few months ago, right? Back, we had all this time where the hash rate was at like 60 terahash and lower, currently at about 400 terahash, right? But this is one that's part of my plan to accrue. So even though realistically it kind of doesn't make sense, if that's the next on my list, then that's going to be the next on my list, right? Which currently, because of the way things fell, it is, right? Because I did just finish my bag of RXD. I did just about, I'm like 2 weeks away, or like a week and a half actually, from finishing my bag of iron. So those will be completed. My bag of Nexa is now also completed thanks to these Celestia airdrops. So now the next on my for sure list was a lithium, right? Realistically, I need to kind of revise because I did collect everything a little bit ahead of schedule. So I didn't really have another one planned. The next one may be Chlor actually, right? Just because we do see value in it, right? The narrative, but the thing is, it's still a small market cap and it's actually currently usable. It is a marketplace that is getting a lot of use. It is getting talked about a lot. It is one that may be next on the list, but for now, even though it kind of goes against what I'm saying, it is with the lithium. And the reason I'm saying that, reason I'm doing that is because that's just part of my plan, right? Like I try to, ever since not just this past year, the year prior to that, that was the whole goal series videos. We set up accumulation goals based on the coins we wanted, right? We do our research, we strategize a lot, we look for value in projects, we talk about those projects, and we go for them, right? So far for me, for us, this has been a very valuable tool in getting into these projects prior to these pumps, right? So yes, I did miss this one, but those of you guys following, we got a lot of big 20 and 30 Xers, right? Core, Dynex, XNA, like there was just so many. The big obvious one was Caspa, right? This is one we're talking about not just last year, the year before that, right? Way before everybody else, and everybody's like, oh, it's just another fast. We saw the value in it, right? And this is the key thing is get in early, set those accumulation goals, on to the next one. Okay, so just depending on your strategy, depending on how you see things, think about that. Like if you haven't done that and a lot of you guys are just kind of mining on a whim and you're kind of confused as to what to go next. Oh, should I mine this? Should I mine this? Look for a value, whatever it is, right? And all these coins, all the ones we've talked about, all the ones that I accrued, it's because we saw something there and we went for it. Even one like as small as like XNA, right? The big thing there was that emission schedule. If you guys remember, that emission schedule initially was crazy, right? They had a freaking decrease in emissions every, I forget now, it was either 5 or 10 days or something like that. So it was extremely, that's what had us really bullish on it, right? And it was a big thing to accrue early on that guy. Okay, so different projects will have different things. But again, you want to get in early. Okay, whether it's GPU mining, ASIC mining. More so, you definitely got to be careful with ASIC mining because again, with GPU mining, you have the flexibility, right? If this doesn't pan out, go on to the next one. ASIC mining, you're there, you're in there. It's a lot riskier, okay? But an example of this, right, would be like Radium, for example. Radium right now, is, if you haven't packed your bag, again, the halving's in 2 months, number one. Number two, the freaking difficulty is pretty freaking low. Yield is really good right now. And this is pretty insane because it's just 2 months prior to the halving. But why is it this low? Because everybody's jumping on this lithium hype train. All these videos, everybody talking about it. When again, the time to talk about it was all of last year. Not the end of last year, since the beginning, like all that whole year we had time to accrue that, right? And it's going to be a similar situation for a lot of these coins, okay? So again, the earlier the better. But if it's next on your list, like for me, it's just happens to be next on my list, right? So I got to revise. I do got to kind of move things around. A lot of things have happened since then. The reason I got my Nexa bag so fast was because of these freaking airdrops. Have been stupid. I know a lot of you guys don't like proof of stake coins, but the yield is stupid. The airdrops are stupid, which by the way, if you guys are participated in Starknet, that's coming out soon. So it's like, I'm pretty sure these next 6 months, I'm going to make more on airdrops than I am mining, period. Right. So again, that's why I'm a big advocate. Expand your horizons, guys. Look, mine here, right? I'm definitely all in here, but simplify your strategy, right? Do that by making plans, looking at different projects, seeing the value, set the accumulation goal, onto the next one. Simplify it. Okay, because if you're going to be chasing profits and switching coins every other day, not going to work out too well. Okay, so, but again, just depending on your strategy, my goal is to not have as many coins, but have larger allocations of the coins I really believe in, right? Which for the most part, it's the same coins we're talking about when we did our initial strategy back in January 2023. Right? Not a whole lot has deviated. Okay, but now that these bags are filling, now it is time for me to start looking on the next gen. Be early, like be looking for coins that are down here in this range instead of up here. Right? Whether it's mining coins or if it's proof of stake coins, which I get a lot of people hate, but again, these stupid airdrops. If you guys are into TIA, you got the Dimension airdrop, Starknet is coming, Wormhole, Eigenlayer, all this. So much out there, guys. Expand your horizons. Look at different things. But yeah, guys, just be careful with different things. Make sure you're fully understanding what you're getting yourself into. Again, not saying it's a bad buy. Again, I'm bullish on CKB. You should be bullish on CKB considering this price action, especially if they deliver on what they're trying to do. It's going to be a pretty big deal. But don't be surprised to see that profitability drop, right? And whether it's this miner or other miners, because again, we're going to see this all over the place. It's all things that just going to repeat from last year, right? This is kind of funny because this is the same timing as this. And then I wouldn't be surprised to, in the spring, summer, start seeing the lithium ASICs, just like how we did last spring, summer with Caspa ASICs. It seems like it's really repeating the cycle of last year. Right, so we do have game plans already. We do have plans in place for all of those things because, again, this is something we've already seen We already have examples, again, with Nervos, with the K7. It's super easy because this just happened 2 months ago with the KA3. Same amount of units came out, very similar, not exact same, but very similar situation, right? So expect it to happen here again, right? So even if you're not interested in the K7 or any of those, this is more for just for you to be aware of these things and understand the dynamics of like the hash rate and the difficulty and how it's going to affect you. Because again, strategy is a huge part of this channel and a big part of the reason that we've been successful, right? Because depending on your strategy and your plan, people are in completely different places. Like, for example, even like GPU mining. If you started mining Flux, you know, after the freaking ETH merge and just stayed on there this whole time, you're in a pretty crappy spot. You're up, yes, you're making some money, but you missed out on so much from not looking into these projects, not trying different things, not diversifying, right? Literally any of these new coins, whether it was like Radiant, which again, we got in 22 initially, that was when we first got in, Caspa, Dynex, Lithium, there's just Chlor, XNA, like pretty much anything. And at the end of the day, realistically, yes, things will run harder at different times, but realistically, guys, it's just stack. Pretty much whatever you're going to get yourself into will most likely have its day eventually, right? It may be now with CKB, it's now, but in 6 months, it might be another coin. In 12 months, it'll be the majority of coins, right? At the end of the day, the goal should be to stack, should be to accrue. But again, certain plays are just going to be better than others. And that's where the research comes in. That's where the strategy comes in, right? And again, that's why I tend to focus on that. I don't really do live streams or look at my farm and look at my unboxing videos because there's a lot of that already, right? I don't want to add to the pile of there because it's pretty much all over the place. This is kind of the niche I found where a lot of people don't talk about. And to me, there's a lot of value here, right? So again, it's totally up to you. I'm not trying to sell you anything. This is just strategizing. Hopefully it does help some of you guys out. Let me know in the comments. I know some of you guys did get that K7, but some of you guys did get it under 2K, right? Which is looking pretty good right now, especially considering these prices, especially if we continue upwards, right? And this is the thing that we've been talking about since last summer, is to not be surprised if the bull run comes early or if it starts early or who knows, right? Just at the end of the day, be prepared, stack as much as you can, whether it's coins, hardware, whatever. Yes, things may go up, things may go down, but just keep in mind the eye should be on the prize for 2025, right? For that bull market when it really freaking matters, okay? So again, guys, let me know in the comments. Let me know what you guys are doing. If you guys bought anything, if you guys are on the fence, or if you guys are unaware of how this dynamic works. I know a lot of new people have came in since Caspa mining and even a lot of helium mining. A lot of you guys got in with helium and you're kind of like looking at other videos. So shout out to you guys who are coming. Just be aware, right? Do research, look at different things, understand the dynamics of mining and how it works, right? So thank you for watching, guys. Please comment, like, and subscribe, guys. And I am out.